Welcome back to the channel, boys. Fabulinski's coming at your neck with this insanely tanky Devastator build. Now with this build, we're going to utilize the Warden skill tree the most. I mean, it's not pure Warden, but we have some other skill nodes and some other skill trees. But for the main part, it's mostly in Warden. We're going to try and buff up our tankiness by buffing up our armor, as well as there's some ability spam, which is going to lead into further tankiness. So let me just break it down and explain. So first, let me go over the skills I've selected because they're going to tie into the skill tree nodes I selected for my class. So let me go ahead and break it down. The first skill we're using is Golem. Pretty much gives you a 65% damage reduction to incoming damage for 8 seconds. It's a really cool looking ability. It pretty much like surrounds you with rocks. Next up, we're using boulderdash. You pretty much just run forward, charging, and then you slam on the ground afterwards. It's a really fun ability to use. You can cover some ground quickly, and you can do some nice damage, and you don't get staggered out of it. At least I haven't gotten staggered out of it. And the last ability is gravity leap. Pretty much you go back into the air, and you can go and essentially like teleport, but you're like slamming into another enemy elsewhere, or you can just do it right in the enemies in front of you. It does a lot of damage, it interrupts, and it's a really fun. You just see a bunch of blood. If you kill all the enemies around you, you just see a bunch of blood and bones and stuff flying up. It's a really fun and just very like powerful, visceral feeling ability. So like I said in the beginning of the video, I didn't go full Warden, although most of my skill points are in the Warden skill tree. I did branch out a little bit down here to Seismic Shifter, as well as a little bit like in the middle between Vanquisher and Warden. So some of the main perks we have are Into the Fray, increase your damage mitigation by 50% for 10 seconds after your kinetic skill ends. So my boulder dash, let me check it out again, is on a 6.2 second cooldown. So pretty much if I keep using that, I'm gonna have a permanent like 50% damage mitigation. So yeah, that's the reason why I'm using that, as well as I'm using gravity leap, so I can keep using those two kinetic abilities. Next up is heirloom armor. When an enemy dies in close range, 20% of their armor will be transferred to you for 10 seconds. So as long as I'm in the middle of the fight getting kills, 20% of the enemy's armor is going to be transferred to me, which is going to increase my tankiness. This is just one of the ways, or I guess both of these I just explained are some of the ways I'm going to become more tanky. Not to mention, like, I have Colossus, which is going to increase my max health by 10%. I have every single one of Colossus, so 4 of them increase my max health by 40%, as well as Anomaly in the Vein, so regenerate health by 1% of your max health. So I have 3 of those, so 3%, which doesn't seem like a lot, but it really is. And as long as you're just dodging attacks and not getting hit, you can pretty much just recover all your health. And my last tanky, I guess you can say tanky skill perk or skill tree node or whatever, is Overload of the Battlefield. Gain additional 10% health for each enemy that died at close range. This pretty much just promotes your tanky playstyle. You're going to be jumping into the fight. As long as you're killing enemies, they're going to increase your max health, which thus leads you to be able to take more damage. Now I do have some skill cooldown reduction, like right here. This is for my kinetic abilities. I believe this is for protection, and this one is also for kinetic. So I have some ability spam as well as this one right here. I forgot to mention this one, another one on the protection skills. But the main perk down here is Paladin. Using protection skills increase your anomaly power by 45% for 10 seconds. So my main plan here is to use my Golem ability, which is going to increase my damage reduction, and then it's going to increase my anomaly power, which is going to make my abilities do more damage. Now every time I use my boulder dash or my gravity leap, it's going to reduce or increase my damage mitigation, and then anytime I kill some enemies, I get some more armor, and anytime I kill enemies in close range, I get more health. So pretty much I do more damage, I kill more enemies, it increases my tankiness, I use my abilities, increases my tankiness. This is like the perfect tank build for me because I love ability spam, and just being a tank is fun, especially in this game. There's so many enemies. Now I would just wish that there was some way for you to draw aggro. Like, I think that'd be very nice for the Devastator because he is the tank of all 4 classes. He is the tank class. So if there's just some way that you can actually draw the attention of the enemies and pull them away from like your Techromancer or the Trickster or whatever it is, you can just pull those enemies away and you can focus them on you. Maybe if it was intrinsic to like Golem or the Bullet Refract or whatever. Maybe if they made it so every time you use those abilities, the enemies aggroed onto you, I feel like that'd be really cool. But then I feel like maybe those abilities might need a little bit of a buff. I don't know, just an idea, but I feel like that'd be a really cool perk for the Devastator. So let's just go over our stats real quick. We have a decent amount of firepower because my weapon is pretty nice. I guess we can just go over that real quick. It's an SMG. I'm going to be in close range anyway, so I like automatic weapons. So we're using an SMG here. But as for my 2 mods, I have Ultimate Storm Whip and then I have regular Storm Whip. Each of them do 25,000 damage. It shoots out like a little lightning bolt. The Ultimate Storm Whip does it every 1 second, and the regular Storm Whip does it every 2 seconds. So you having these both on a weapon at the same time is just crazy. The only thing is it's so loud. It is unbelievably loud. but damn, is a DPS there for this weapon, and I love it. Now I do use blue weapons for my other slots because I can just literally increase the level all the way up. It only costs steel and I have 44,000 of it, or iron I should say. So I don't ever switch weapons, so that's just me though. As for some of my other stats, we do have a nice global cooldown reduction of 22.5%, which stacks with the other skill tree nodes I have unlocked in my class, as well as some skill life leech. I'm going to be using my skills a lot, so being able to get some health in return when I do some damage with those skills is always nice. Honestly, if I can make this just a little bit higher, I would. So let's go ahead and move on to our armor now. Let's go ahead and start with the helmet. We're using human comet. Gravity leap increases the skill's damage by 35,000. And then for our second mod, we're using crit stack. Critical shots build up a 5-second stacking effect that grants you 1,400 anomaly power and 1,500 firepower bonuses, stacks up to 5 times. So if I'm just landing headshot after headshot, pretty much is going to increase my anomaly and firepower, which is going to allow me to do more damage. Quick little tip here, if you're gonna use something like Human Comet or any of the other mods that increase an ability's damage, you wanna put those mods on your highest level piece of gear because the mods actually scale with the item level. So right here, it's on a level 44 piece, it does 35,000 damage, or increases the skill's damage by 35,000. But if I was to put this on, let's say my chest piece, which is level 43, it would do less damage because the mod scales with the item level. Just a quick little tip there for you guys to keep in mind. So now let's just go over the chest piece. We're using primal armor, boulder dash, double your armor when the skill ends for 7 seconds. Pretty much is going to increase my armor, or double it, literally it says it. So right now I have 40,000 armor, you can see in the top right. When I use boulder dash, it's going to make that 80,000 or 81,000 armor, which is awesome because having more armor is great. So now let's just go over the chest piece while we're on it. The first mod we're using is primal armor, boulder dash, double your armor when the skill ends for 7 seconds. So every time I use boulder dash, it's going to double my armor. Right now I have 40,000 armor, so every time I use it, it's going to double that, making me have 80,000 armor, which is just going to increase my tankiness, and it feels amazing. Plus I'm already running in with boulder dash anyway, so I want to be able to take the damage that's going to hit me once I run into the battle. Second mod we're using is seismic impulse. A seismic impulse is generated every 6 seconds, dealing 21,000 damage to enemies within a 5-meter radius around you. As long as I'm in the middle of the fight, I'm just going to be doing damage over time. I don't even have to think about this damage because it just happens every 6 seconds without me having to do anything. As long as I'm just near some enemies, they're going to take damage, which is going to allow me to do some nice cleanup and crowd control very well. On my legs, the first mod we're using is resistance. Golem, when the skill is active, increases your resistance by 33%. I want to be able to use this ability a lot, so I opted for this one as opposed to the one that makes it last longer, or the one that every time you get kills it extends the duration, because I want to be able to use it a lot so I can keep increasing my anomaly power. So using this and having more resistance when I do use it is just going to increase my tankiness. Now the second mod we have on is dying fire breath. Whenever your health drops below 30%, burn is inflicted on enemies within a 10-meter radius. It procs every 5 seconds. Now there's 2 reasons why I have this on. 1, because it was just on this armor piece and I wasn't able to change it. But 2, I mean I could have changed it, but then I would have had a different mod in mod slot 1 and I didn't want that, so I figured I would just leave dying breath on. But honestly, the second reason is because it lets me know when I'm about to die. It sets out like a big fire blast and it catches every enemy on fire that's near me, pretty much allowing me to get away and telling me, like, it's like a little mental note, okay, you're about to die, get away, get some health, or do something. Onto my gloves, we're using primal knuckle duster. Boulder dash increases the skill's damage by 23,000. And the second mod we're using is a tier 3 mod. We got circle of power. Boost your resistance by 15% every time you use a skill. Stacks up to 3 times and deteriorates every 7 seconds. So as long as I can keep cycling all my abilities, it's going to stack 3 times, which is what, 45% extra resistance for damage. So if I use my abilities, I use Golem, I kill enemies in close range, my armor is going to go up, my resistance is going to go up. So it's just a nasty cycle of ability spam and becoming tanky. And lastly, the boots. The first mod we're using is Primal Rage. Reduce the skill's cooldown by 50%. A 50% skill cooldown reduction is insane, which is why I have such a low skill cooldown for Boulder Dash. Now the second mod we're using is Untamed Power. Using skills, deals 12,000 damage to enemies within a 5-meter radius around you. The damage is equivalent to 30% of your anomaly power. So as long as I keep increasing my anomaly power, this is going to do more damage. And another quick little tip, your melee actually counts towards, as an ability. So if I was to do something like this, right? If I was to do my boulder dash, right, I'm gonna run forward, slam the ground, I can use my melee, it's gonna use the thing, then I can maybe, you know, kinetic slam. There's no enemies there, but I can use that, then melee, I can pop golem, then melee. So you pretty much just want to keep using your melee ability as much as possible here. So I think this might be my favorite way to play Devastator. The feeling of running in with the boulder dash and using your gravity leap and using golem, it just feels so much fun. Plus, you're using ability spam, and then every time you use your golem, you increase your anomaly power. Getting kills increases your tankiness. It's just an amazing feeling. Every time you use your abilities, this includes your melee ability. It cracks off that little anomaly blast, which does more damage to enemies. There's just a lot of ability spam, which feels amazing to me because I love ability spam. In this game, you can get away with it. Now, I hear a lot of talk saying that Devastator isn't viable and, like, you know, somebody higher end tier of the expeditions, but I don't know if that's true. I mean, again, the highest tier I've gotten to was like, I think I'm at 12 or something like that. I can't remember exactly right now, but I haven't seemed to be having any issues. I mean, I haven't been able to solo them, but if I get at least one person on my team, I can do a lot of tanking. As long as they can do some damage, I can tank a lot of damage, which is going to take some pressure off of them. So honestly, I think that Devastator will be just fine in some of the end game, like a very end game expeditions, as long as you know how to build your Devastator right. Well, I mean, you can say that about any class, right? As long as you have a efficient build that uses nice abilities, or if you have just pure weapon damage, something where you can do either a lot of damage, take a lot of damage, or keep yourself alive, or if you have nice ability spam which will lead into damage, I think you will be just fine. So as long as you are, you know, smart enough to create a decent build, I think that everything scales up. So as long as you have your abilities to scale up and you have all your gear at level 50 or whatever it is, I think you'll be just fine. Definitely try this build out. I'm having a lot of fun with it. So now I gotta think of what do I want to do next, because I already did tankiness, I did ability spam with the impale. I think I'm gonna go for a reflect build. I'm not too sure yet because I've been experimenting with a little bit of the reflect bullets ability, but I don't know, it seems a little weird to me. Like, the only real use is against human enemies, maybe. I don't know yet, I haven't decided, but I think I want to make a build around that because that's the only thing I really haven't used. Same thing with the, I think it's called like endless mass, where you trap an enemy in a stone. I want to make a build around that, so I'm going to keep that in mind and see what I can come up with next. But if you guys like this content, please like, subscribe, and share. It truly helps me out a lot. You can check out my other videos, links are in the description below. I have a lot of crazy builds, so go ahead and check that out. And you might as well follow my social media. I have a Twitter and an Instagram, both at @fat_bloonskis. But with all that being said, deuces.